Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Oh my god, I can't believe it's been this long since I sat down and recorded a video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment because I want to know what you guys want to see for my future videos. If you guys want to know more about like labor and delivery, postpartum, because girl, postpartum is a whole nother video. Like, I want to sit down and record a whole postpartum video because it has definitely been a journey with that. Also, dealing with a lot of things after you have a baby. Like, I don't think people realize how much things really do change when you have a baby. Like, obviously, your life is going to change, but you really don't know until you're in that position and you're in that journey that you really see, wow, like, so much has changed. So definitely want to make a whole nother video about that. So if you guys are interested, leave a comment for me. And yeah, super excited to record this video. So let's get right into it. So let me go back from the beginning. So my due date was January 21st. A week prior to that, I had went to technically my last appointment. And they did tell me they were going to wait until I passed my due date to see if I was going to need to be induced or the baby was just going to come on the due date. So the last week that they checked me before January 21st, I was only 1 centimeter dilated. So that whole week I was bouncing on the ball. I was walking, like going up and down the stairs. I was doing a lot to try to like dilate more, and I was really, really hoping that I would dilate more. Yeah, I went past my due date. So January 21st, that night, I was having cramps in the night. Like 2 days prior to that, I was already cramping a lot. But I don't know if they were Braxton Hicks because obviously it wasn't real labor. I was tracking all my contractions and it wasn't the real thing. So I was dealing with those in the night. I was losing my mucus plug like 2 days prior to my due date. So every night I was like, oh my god, this is it, but nothing. So my doctor called me and they said, let's schedule you an appointment on the 22nd to come in and do a stress test on the baby, make sure everything is fine since I did go past my due date. I mean, it was only a day, but still they wanted to make sure everything was good with my blood pressure. So I went in for my appointment. They did the stress test, checking the heartbeat, making sure that everything was fine with the baby because I was past my due date. And then they checked my blood pressure and they said it was high. So talk with the doctor. So I went to go pee first because, girl, your bladder, like, it cannot hold pee in. Like, it cannot. So I was like, I need to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom. I'm coming out of the room. And when I go into the room, she tells me to undress, obviously, so the doctor can check my dilation to see if I did dilate anymore. My water literally broke. Like it was just gushing out, and I was like, wait, I know I didn't pee. So yeah, I'm waiting for the doctor to come in because the nurses went and told her that my water broke. So she comes in, she was like, let me check to see if your water did break. I'm not going to check for dilation, just in case you are, they can check for that at the hospital. But she told me either way, if your water did or didn't break, I was going to take it to the hospital because you are preeclampsia basically. So she's like, let me check you. So she swabbed me, and when the swab came out blue, she was like, okay, your water did break. I guess that indicates that. So thank god I already had everything packed in the car when I went to that appointment, like my suitcase, the baby's diaper bag, all of that stuff, because I just had like a strong feeling that something was gonna happen. So I was super nervous, so I'm waiting in the front. I call my mom, I call everybody in my family, like, hey, I'm gonna be sent to the hospital because my water broke and my blood pressure is super high. So then do all the registration, all of that. Still calm, still no contractions. So then they put me into the room. I think it's called triage. I'm not sure, but like where they check you to see if you're even gonna be like admitted into the hospital. So I'm in that room. I was the only one in there at that moment. So they make me undress, put the gown on, do all of that stuff. They check my blood pressure, so my blood pressure was still high. They're calling labor and delivery, trying to get a room ready for me, all of that stuff. And every time they kept coming in to check my blood pressure, it was just high and high and high. She was like, maybe because you're nervous. I'm like, I don't know. At that moment, I didn't feel nervous, but I don't know. I think it was just all the stress that I was feeling was making it even worse than it already was. So, they were like, we want to get you into the room. We want to start you on the medicine for your blood pressure to see if we can control it. Because, like they said, it is really high and it could affect the baby. The IV really, really hurt. So, they put the IV in. They were going to start me on magnesium for my blood pressure. So, eventually they were going to start me. They didn't want to start me yet. They just wanted to see what was going to happen with my blood pressure, if it was going to go down on its own. And I felt like a big gush, like, just splash out of me. And I was like, the heck? So, I called the nurse. The nurse comes in. She checks me. She was like, okay, so the baby basically swallowed his poop in your stomach, like in the sack. And I was like, is that even safe? Like, what is going on? So they were basically just saying it happens sometimes, you know, the baby's gonna be okay, like nothing to worry about. But I mean, I don't know, that doesn't sound good to me in my head. So I was just like, oh my god, I was already worried, started getting even more worried when that happened. So then basically, since my water had broke, they didn't want me getting up anymore to use the restroom or anything, so they put the catheter in. So oh my god, like, that hurt. And especially because I was on no type of medication, so I felt everything. It was coming in throughout the day, checking me, and I was only 1 centimeter still. My blood pressure was still high, so they were really worried about that. So that's when the whole C-section talk came up, and they were like, okay, since your blood pressure is high still, and they had already started me on magnesium for the blood pressure, and it still wasn't getting controlled. So that's when they were talking about the C-section, and they said it might have to be a C-section depending on how you're progressing for the rest of the day and the rest of the night, and see how your blood pressure is doing. So I was really sad when they did say C-section, but at this point I was just like, you know what, whatever is gonna get my baby here safe, that's all I care about. So if you have to cut me open, do whatever you have to do. I started me on magnesium. They were basically gonna start the induction process because it was already 7, almost 8 o'clock, and I was only at 2 centimeters. My body was not progressing. My cervix wasn't even like soft and nothing. Like, everything was just going super slow. So I was there at 10 o'clock. I was admitted. It was already going to be 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And I already had contractions since like 1 p.m. So the contractions started. They were going. It was like 4 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart, like just back and forth, back and forth. So the contractions were already pretty hard. I was on the magnesium medicine, so I was kind of like very droopy, loopy. Me is that my contractions were going to my back, my lower back. And I was actually, every time I would get a contraction, like I was getting a pain right here in my rib, like my upper rib. And I don't know, like the baby was positioned a certain way. I don't know if his feet were right there in my ribs, but like every time I would get a contraction, it felt like he was kicking me and kicking me and kicking me on my ribs. So that's how I was feeling my contractions, and it was getting super uncomfortable, and they had me sitting up like in the most uncomfortable position. It was just not good. So it was already 8 p.m. Nothing was progressing. I was still stuck at 2 centimeters. They were talking about a C-section, so I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna get a C-section, then I might as well just get the epidural. Like, just so exhausted already with the pain. I was already 8 hours in. Like, the pain was killing me. Like I said, it was going to my lower back and in my rib. We're gonna go ask if it's okay for you to get the epidural because you're only 2 centimeters. So after 40 minutes, they finally came back and they said, yeah, it was okay for me to get the epidural. So at that moment, we were waiting for the doctor to come in, do the epidural. And honestly, like, I don't even remember the pain of the epidural. Like, I don't even think it was painful for me. Like, I just think I felt like passing out when they had me like leaning forward, like squishing the pillow so they can do the epidural on the back. They laid me all the way down so it can kind of like do its thing, but they did tell me it might take like 40 minutes for it to fully kick in, so you're still gonna be feeling the pain. So I was like, oh my god, I cannot do another 40 minutes. So they laid me down. I started feeling like, you know, tingliness all inside my body. I got super like warm, fuzzy. Did throw up a couple times. I just felt so sick and I had nothing in my stomach. I think like that morning when I went to the doctor, my OB appointment, I had like a piece of bread. I don't even know. Like, so I didn't really eat. I hadn't really been drinking a lot of water either at that point. So I was feeling really sick after I got the epidural. So they did the epidural. They had left me like sitting up a little bit just because I was feeling nauseous, and the epidural had already kicked in, so they didn't care if I was sitting up. But I was kind of just like up like that for the rest of the whole night. So the whole day passed already. 7 in the morning, they checked me. I don't even know, it probably wasn't even 7 in the morning, like 5, 6 in the morning. I was already 3 centimeters. So what they wanted to do was do the peanut ball to see if I started opening up. And by this point, they had already started the induction, and they had already put Pitocin to try to help me dilate, which I didn't even care because, girl, I already had the epidural. I wasn't going to feel the contractions even worse. So they had already started my Pitocin, all of that stuff throughout the night when they were checking me and stuff. So in the morning, I was at 3 centimeters, and they decided to do the peanut ball and see if I was going to progress. At this point, I had already told them, if I'm not progressing, then why don't we just do the C-section, because it's already 2 days. It's already been 2 days past my due date. My child day has pooped in my stomach. My blood pressure was still high. The medicine wasn't even doing nothing. It was just making me feel even worse than I already felt. But they were like, let's just see if you open up. So they did the peanut ball, and sure enough, I started opening up. I was 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, it just started going and going and going. So I was super thankful about that. I wasn't even going to need a C-section after all, obviously, because I was opening up. I believe by 10 o'clock, I was already at 9 centimeters. So I was super happy about that. By the time I hit 9 centimeters, the epidural was starting to wear off. So I started feeling all the contractions again. And again, it was just like a bad feeling right here on top of my rib. It was like he was kicking me. Like, it probably wasn't even the baby, but it was just like a sharp pain right here, and then it would shoot to my back. So it started again. I asked them if they could please do another dose, whatever, I don't know. So they called another doctor to come in. They shot up the medicine one more time. The second time they did the epidural, it didn't work like the first time. It did take away the contractions for a while, but I started to feel them. By the time I was pushing, I started to feel them again. So I was 9 centimeters at 10 o'clock. By 9 centimeters and a half, I already felt pressure, like I had to use the bathroom. Like, I kept telling the nurse, like, I already feel like I have to push. So they kept checking me, and they're like, no, you're not even at 10 yet, but it's normal to start feeling like you want to push because the baby was already like head down. The baby was ready to go. So I was at 9 centimeters. I was feeling a lot of pressure. I was in a lot of pain. My mouth was so dry. I was so thirsty. Like, by this point, at 9 centimeters, I was done. I was exhausted. Like, I kept thinking to myself, how am I going to push? How am I going to push? I'm so tired. So they came in, they checked me. I was already at 10 centimeters. My cervix had already softened. They were like, okay, we can start doing practice pushes. So by 11 o'clock, we started doing the practice pushes. So because I was already feeling a lot of pressure. So I was doing the practice pushes. It was probably an hour in where I was doing the practice pushes. And the baby was starting to come out, but when I would stop pushing, he would go back in. And then I push again, he would come out. And then he would go back in. So he was just kind of like getting stuck as well because I kept pushing, then I would stop. And also the nurses would have me pushed, and then they would like give me a 10-minute break. So they would like lay me back down on my right side and put the peanut ball and just let me relax for 10 minutes. And then I would keep calling them like, hey, I feel like I have to push this time. They would come back and I would push again, and it didn't seem like he wanted to come out. So I was super exhausted at this point. The doctor finally came in, the one who's going to deliver the baby. He comes in, another doctor comes in with him. The baby nurses come in. I believe they were the NICU nurses. And then a student was going to be watching the delivery happen. They asked me, but honestly, I was just feeling so sick. I didn't even care. I was in pain. I was like, whatever. Like, I don't care who's in here. Just get this baby out. Like, what? So, yeah. But you know what? I wish that I didn't feel as bad as I was feeling, because I for sure would have advocated for myself about things that I did not like that was happening. Like, I wish I had the strength, that I was feeling good. You know, I just wish that things would have been so much differently than the way they happened, because I wouldn't have allowed a lot of things to happen that day. But again, I was just so out of it. I was so sick. I don't even remember a lot of things that did probably happen at my labor and delivery. Like, honestly, like, this is just kind of on the top of my head what I do remember, because that's how bad I was. I was so down, trying to help me push. You know, the nurses were trying to help me lift my legs up because I couldn't even feel my body. Even though the epidural was kind of wearing off at this point, I still couldn't feel my body. So they were helping me. And also another thing they effed up on was that the Pitocin that they put me on, it was a very low dosage. So my contractions were starting to get far apart by the time that it came down to push. So obviously, if your contractions are far apart, you're pushing, and then you're gonna have to stop for a while and wait till the next contraction comes in. So that's kind of what's making it hard for the baby to come out as well. So the doctor that was gonna deliver the baby started getting mad at the nurses and was like, hey, why is her Pitocin like so down, the dosage? Like, it should have been up, so that way the contractions were closer together, the baby could come out quicker. So I started getting worried because I can tell and I could feel the stress in the whole room. And there was a lot of nurses in there. It was just very overwhelming and scary. Like, I knew something was wrong at this point because the baby was not coming out. No matter how hard I was pushing, I felt like it wasn't enough, or it wasn't like good enough for the baby to come out. So I would just remember crying and crying, and I was just like, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. And I was just so tired. Like, I was like kind of falling asleep in between trying to push. So it was just very bad at this point. The doctor was arguing with the nurses in the background. I remember that. Like, it was just a stressful delivery. Like, stressful. Obviously I've never experienced that because I've never had a kid before, but I've never witnessed that in other people's labor and delivery, or their stories, or whatever they talk about in their labor and delivery. So I was just like, this isn't right. Like, everything just wasn't right. So that feeling of feeling something was wrong in my heart the day before, like, I knew it was for a reason. Like, I knew I wasn't just feeling that for no reason, you know? Not me even being negative. Like, I just knew something was wrong. So by the time it came to push the baby out, or trying to push the baby out, the doctor said, okay, she's not able to push the baby out. It's starting to cause stress on the baby, so we're going to have to use the vacuum. But when I heard the word vacuum, I freaked out. I started crying. I was like, oh my God, like, a vacuum? What does that even mean? Like, how are they going to take the baby out? Like, what's going to happen? Like, I just remember crying to his dad, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that I can't do this. Like, I am so sorry. Like, I just remember saying that I was sorry, that I couldn't do it, that I was going to die. Just a lot of things were in my head at that moment of just feeling so scared. I remember just shaking and shaking and shaking. And so they bring the vacuum. I don't even know what it looks like till this day. I don't even want to Google it. Nothing. Like, I just heard them saying they were bringing the vacuum, and they were like, okay, in your next contraction, we're going to try to take this baby out. So you need to push as hard as you can. I don't know. God gave me the strength. I just pushed as hard as I could. I remember them just like tugging and tugging. So they pulled the baby out, and I remember seeing his legs and his butt come out. And then they put him on my stomach for a split second, and I seen that the cord was wrapped around his neck. And then I just kind of like blacked out. I just remember blacking out. Like, I don't even remember what happened after that. All I heard was from a distance, the baby was crying. And I was just like, oh my God, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. Like, that's all I could say. Just thank you, God, because I seen the cord around his neck. Oh my God, I'm getting choked up. I seen the cord around his neck, and he was purple, so that was the last thing I had seen. And they took him, and he was just crying in the background. I remember hearing him very faintly crying, but they were trying to suction out everything because, again, he did eat his poop in the stomach, so that's why the baby nurses were in there taking care of him. So drowsy, everything. Like, I don't even know how to explain how bad I felt in that moment. I just remember the nurse bringing a hot blanket, and she put it on top of me. And so I did tear. I had a 3rd-degree tear. So I don't know if it was from the vacuum. I don't know if they had to cut me in order for them to be able to put the vacuum. Honestly, I don't even know. I don't even know, and I didn't even ask, nothing. I just knew it was a 3rd-degree tear. So I started losing a lot of blood. And I just remember, like, again, I just kept blacking out and waking up, blacking out and waking up through all of this, they were trying to stitch me back up. But I had lost so much blood at this point, so I was super sick, super out of it. I didn't even get to do skin to skin with my baby. Like, it wasn't the delivery that I expected or planned for. And to this day, it makes me so sad because I didn't get to like have that bonding experience with him when he was born because of how sick I was, and I was just bleeding out and all of that stuff. So I was just like, you know what, as long as my baby's okay, I don't even care about me. Like, if I die, whatever, like at least my baby is okay. So they were stitching me back up. So finally, when everything was done, the stitching, I just remember like looking around the room and like there was blood everywhere on the floor. Like, it was like a crime scene. Like, it was just so horrible. Like, and I just remember through all of this, me trying to push the baby out, like the phones kept going off, like my family was calling the room, like asking if I was okay, because nobody knew. After I hit 9 centimeters, nobody knew what happened to me because I wasn't on my phone anymore. His dad was on his phone because we were all worried. We were trying to get the baby out. Just so much happened so quick that we were not able to let anybody. I was finally able to hold him just for like a minute, and then they took him away because I couldn't hold him. I was just so out of it. It's just a very scary thing. Like, I still didn't even process everything that had happened. Like, I was just like, what the hell's going on? Like, where is my baby, you know? So I was finally able to grab my phone. I called my mom and I FaceTimed her, and I'm like, Mom, I had the baby. Like, it was just such a scary and sad thing, you know. And I know my mom was super worried. Everybody was worried, like, what the hell happened, because nobody had heard anything for hours and nobody was answering the phone. Still at this point, I hadn't even like really had skin to skin with the baby, haven't had a chance to really see how he looks, nothing. Like, I still hadn't been able to even do that. So when I got to the postpartum room, that's when I was finally able to hold him. Oh my god, it was the best feeling in the world, just seeing him. Like, oh my god, it was, I mean, if you're a mom, you know how you feel when you first hold your baby, and just like, it was just so amazing, like, finally to be able to see him, see how he looks, because I hadn't really seen how he looked or nothing. The next day, it had already been a whole 24 hours. I was still on magnesium because my blood pressure was not getting controlled. I was finally able to eat again. I was still feeling sick. I remember I threw up like 2 more times, even after I gave birth, just from the medication, how I was feeling. All the pain down there, like, it was just so much. Like, I know people talk about, like, everything that happens in labor, but, like, people really don't talk about after delivery and how bad you feel and everything that's going on. And it was just a lot. It was a lot to take in. Parenting is hard. 4th day, which that was the day I left the hospital, it was a Sunday. I went in on a Thursday and I didn't come out till a Sunday. So that Sunday, you know, they were checking my vitals, checking my blood, doing all of that like prior the whole days, and my blood pressure still wasn't getting controllable. So they did start slowly like lowering the dosage of the magnesium, which was for the blood pressure. So that's when I kind of started to feel better. Like the 3rd day, the 4th day is when I started to feel a little bit better. I was starting to eat more. I mean, the hospital food is nasty, but obviously you have to eat it. I did have McDonald's. Doctors were coming in telling me about the whole postpartum stuff with myself, my blood pressure, all of that stuff. And then I guess they did the last blood work on me. The baby was already ready to go. He was ready to be discharged. So we were waiting on myself and my whole like results to come back. So the doctor did come back and she told me that my anemia levels were at a 5, which they're normally supposed to be 10 and higher, and mine was at a 5. So obviously she said that happened because of how much blood I lost during labor. So she was like, right now your levels the way you are, like, you should be passing out on the floor, like, you're that bad. But she's like, you don't look bad, but your levels are bad. So she's like, we're gonna have to do a blood transfusion. So when they said that, I was just like, oh my god. Like, I got, ultimately, like, right away I got super scared because I'm like, what the hell, like, somebody else's blood in my body, like, what's gonna happen? You know, God, like, just let me be okay, because I need to go home with my baby. Like, I don't want to leave. I don't want my baby to leave and me still be stuck here in the hospital, you know? So they did the blood transfusion. They did 1 bag. and apparently my levels still weren't going up, so they did a second bag, and thankfully I had no reaction to it. The only thing, I was feeling very hot, like my whole body, but they said that was normal. And I think also because I was nervous, I started getting hot and stressed, and then my blood pressure was still going back up. So I was like, damn it, like they're not gonna let me leave because my blood pressure kept going up and up and up. So it was already around 3 o'clock, and I was still doing the whole blood transfusion. It was going so slow because they had it going in me really slow, just in case I did have a reaction. So I was like, oh my god, I don't think I'm gonna be able to leave. Thankfully, they were able to let me go home. So they let me go home. Oh my god, I was still feeling so sick. Like, I just felt like I got ran over by a bus a million times. I kid you not. It was a crazy experience. I literally never imagined my birth to be that way. Like I said, we plan for these things. Obviously, you can never plan because you never know what can happen. So yeah, it was just crazy the way everything happened in my delivery. Like, till this day, I'm like, oh my god, I cannot believe I went through all of that. Like, I almost died, lost all that blood, like his cord wrapped around his neck. Like, I still can't believe it till this day. Like, I really went through all of that. But you know what, I would do it 10 times again just to have my baby. Like, I'm so blessed to have him, and I'm so thankful to God that nothing happened to him. Even if I got anemia, even if I lost all that blood, I don't care, because you know what, my baby was okay, and that's what mattered the most to me. So yeah, I went through a lot. I went through a lot. He went through a lot during that whole delivery. Like, it was just crazy. Like, I'm very scary experience, and I'm traumatized, and I think I don't ever want to have kids again. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and don't forget to leave a comment to let me know what kind of videos you guys do want to see. But I really do want to get into a postpartum video, just to let you guys know more in depth of all the stuff that I am dealing with and did go through. So if you guys are interested in that, please leave a comment, so that way I know you guys want to see that video. We'll get to get on camera and do this video, get it off the way, because oh my god, I've been wanting to talk about this so much, because I want to know if anybody else experienced this, or if anybody else went through a blood transfusion. Like, what was your experience? What happened to you? You know, that's how I wanted to get my video out there. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I gotta go because my baby's cranky.